When fragments from a man's past resurface, faded memories like a haunting specter, can you put the pieces together to see the full picture? Can you untangle the past without stirring the ghosts he's worked so hard to bury?
Oh, hi, what's up?
Oh, hi. I just thought I'd call in about the physics. I mean, I must say it's not my main area of expertise. I work with classical systems, but one of the beautiful comparisons is with harmony in music and the way in which it can be compared with how light behaves. So basically, like the phase, when you can have the light being perfectly in phase, or you can add up two waves that add up perfectly to being in phase. And this is a bit like the second and third harmonics in music. So I don't know if that was...
When I'm thinking of phase, I'm thinking of if you have... can you call it a peak and a trough? What do you call like when it hits the top and the bottom? Mm-hmm. What do you call that?
Yeah, well, if you have a probability distribution, so it's the
or I'm just thinking, literally just thinking of like a sine wave. What is the name on a graph? What do you call the top and the bottom of the wave? Is there a name for that?
That's the amplitude. Are you talking about the size? It's the amplitude. If it reaches the
sure. I'm just saying, is there a name for the top and the bottom? Amplitude, I think, is the distance, right, or the radius. What is there a name for is it peak and trough?
You can say peak and trough. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Like a real. When I think of if something is in phase, I'm thinking. In phase means that the peaks and troughs are kind of like lining up, and out of phase means that they're not. Or what does phase mean exactly? Can you explain that?
Yeah, exactly. So if you imagine there being some kind of delay between the peaks or the troughs, or where they are in their cycle, mm-hmm. Then that's a delay. And so if you just add up those two waves, and then you're going to have some destructive behavior. But you could have two waves that you add up that cancel one another out, and then you have a third wave which then can still have constructive behavior.
Okay.
So that's a little bit like that you need it to be perfect fractions though of the period. And so what you're describing with this distance is the period. And so when you have a perfect half of the period, this starts to become like the what's it called in music? The second and the third, like the fifths and the fourths and that kind of stuff. So that's to do with it being a perfect ratio of the period.
Okay, I understand. Okay, just a terminology. The period is the distance from like how long like a full wave is, right? From top to bottom and then back to start, right? Yeah. So ratios of pitches in music aren't quite having to do with harmonics or anything yet, I don't think, but they have to do with how good the two things sound together. I believe that there are certain fractions or ratios that are closer to like whole numbers, or not whole numbers, but they're cleaner and they tend to sound nicer because they sound more consonant, because I'm guessing there's more, I don't know if it would have to do with constructive or destructive or not, but.
No, you're getting it spot on. So the ratios are the ratios of this period. And the reason for that is kind of interesting, because then you go into neuroscience in that direction, because why the brain prefers these simpler signals, because it becomes about signal analysis that our brain seems to be doing. So
because if you have if you take something that's double something that would be half the period, I think would be double mm-hmm. the frequency, which would be in music, which would be an octave, and that's a pleasing sound. It almost sounds identical, right? Except it's just a higher.
Yeah, exactly. Like octaves are great, and then fifths are the next one, I think, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
So if you were to do what was called a Fourier transform, it's easy. It's broken down into fewer waves. It's kind of simpler for our brains to comprehend. Mm-hmm. But this also makes it, the image is stronger. So there's a better. I'm going to go back to saying coherence, but there's a coherence of these waves in the end. Whereas if you have lots of if you imagine it's all randomized, then the signal seems noisy. Mm-hmm. It's basically white noise at that point. And then you're going to always find a wave that cancels out, and that will be dissonance or when the waves don't have any intensity in physics, and so then you have the black spots produced on the screen. So there's a relationship between dissonance and destructive behavior in these waves. It's not to say it's an analogy as opposed to being actual cause of this. Of course, I'm not suggesting that, but there's some beautiful analogy with wave behavior in physics and this kind of stuff in music. So, and I'm hoping that you'd hear more of your music. By the way, I've heard some what you've been up to before, and yeah, you should do some more of that stuff on the stream. Also would be interested in your analysis of music and your perspective.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you very much. Why do you think? Yeah. Why does one electron interfere with itself? What's the answer to that?
Well, it's not. The problem is our classical perspective of causation, and I mean, as I said, this isn't my area of expertise. I read this more for fun. I work with like flock models of birds or neural networks. There's a lot of interesting physics there. But it is a bit of a conceptive problem. So from what I understand, there can be no classical causation underlying quantum mechanics. So this notion of why it's a problem in the first place pre-assumes this classical notion of causation. So it's because it's delocalized. So then you can have self interactions.
Okay,
so
gotcha. All right, I'll just dump causation as an assumption. My bad. I don't know why I would even. What a stupid thought.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I mean, I bet we all have these assumptions that we get from I guess it's from the scale in which we live, and classical Newtonian physics that we're dealing with on a daily basis, and so we build up our instinct from this perspective to start off with. But if we were smaller, I guess delocalization would be a bigger issue, and we'd see things in a more blurry way in that regards. It's also an interesting question because initially you can look at the quantum mechanics and think, well, maybe it's just an approximation, because in classical statistical physics we also deal with distributions of things. You know, like there's a lot of relationship with Brownian motion and thermodynamics. Right, we often see a particle behaving randomly, and then we give it a probability distribution like we have in quantum mechanics.
Sure.
So you say, well, maybe then quantum mechanics is also just an approximation.
But that seems to be not true, because it seems like, I feel like in a macro sense, when we do probabilistic distributions, the thing still exists somewhere realistically. But it feels like in the quantum sense, the distribution is like the actual feature of reality, because it's acting like it's in all places at once, even with itself. I don't think that emerges in like a classical sense, does it?
Exactly. A classical sense, we assume it's ignorance on our part.
Yeah.
So a Brownian particle behaves this way because we just can't have all the information at once. Whereas in quantum mechanics, it seems it's more intrinsic. But I had another thought on that point, but I've forgotten my thought now. Yeah. On the other hand, what was it? Something relating in quantum mechanics, but. Yeah, there seems to be no real good argument for classical causation underlying quantum mechanics. But there's, in the end, there's a limit to our knowledge. Oh, the uncertainty principle. Sorry, that's really also a very beautiful and interesting factor in all of this. So with particles, the more accurately we know the position, the less accurately we know the momentum of a particle. And on our scale, this doesn't really make much difference, but on the quantum mechanical scale, this is kind of crazy. So as soon as we know the velocity or the momentum more and more accurately, then the probability distribution we have for its position becomes wider and wider and wider. And this is inescapable. And we have other uncertainty relations that limit how well something can be known, which is how well something can be observed, one could say. So there's also that aspect to it, but this seems built in. It's not just a matter of it's because humans aren't all that good. It's seems to, as you were saying, like baked into the model, baked into the physics that we observe.
Sure.
But I mean, of course, it could be the limitations of our knowledge and the methods in which we use, or there's this what we don't know. There's things that we don't know that we have yet to know, and we can theoretically know, but there's also the potential for things that we don't know that influence how things work, but we can never know. A little bit like Gödel's incompleteness theorem, where there are true statements that can't be proved.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like I guess we get into the subjectivity or some weird fundamental a priori understandings we can even have of the universe, and if there are things that escape us, but who cares?
Exactly, but it also keeps things exciting. So
True.
We should be grateful and thankful for this. I think it's the fun part of it all.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I could go on all day about philosophy and physics. And one thing, and one nice little feature that I'd like to point out is that how birds flock and this interaction, which can be considered an active potential between the birds. These types of interactions also can be used to model interactions of neurons in the brain. I mean, I think I maybe mentioned this last time, but it's just such a beautiful thing that these interactions, in a general sense, govern a whole host of physics that doesn't seem at first related, and it's quite a beautiful thing to realize that. So yeah.
Okay. Was your interest first in birds, or was it in neuro stuff?
Well, I did my philosophy degree at first, and I actually studied physics before that, but I went off partying in Manchester, so that didn't work out. Then I ended up doing a philosophy degree, and during that degree I realized that causation is such a big aspect of even ethics. I mean, if someone's not capable of doing something, then how can you judge them ethically on it?
Yeah, the whole determinism, compatibilism, where does moral agency come from bullshit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you bring up on the stream that it's such an important factor. And so then I became aware that, well, I'm only going to be able to answer this by going back to do physics. So that was really what got me back into physics. But then whilst doing physics, I realized that classical statistical physics is pretty funky. And then I had opportunities to work in the field of what's called active matter. So humans are active matter. We have a battery. We're effectively breaking the laws of energy conservation because we produce our own energy, we consume energy. And so then you're working in what's called non-equilibrium physics. So before you said you didn't know what an equilibrium was?
Well, I think I know what an equilibrium is. I just don't know what it means in whatever that sentence was.
Okay, it's kind of it's all very much related. So in a system in which you have energy conservation, it's like a closed system. Systems will aim towards their energy minima, or towards a point in which they're energetically stable. And so you can imagine this with a ball on a hill. So there's two points in which they're stable. The ball can be right at the top of the hill, and so it could be pushed in either direction, and then it will move. But other than that, it will stay where it is. So it is an equilibrium, but it's an unstable equilibrium. Or it could be at the bottom of the hill, right in the trough. And this would be in a stable equilibrium. But the cool thing is a lot of beautiful physics like neural networks and such like, they don't have this energy conservation. It's like a ball in a system like this, but there's wind blowing and there's thermodynamics going on. And so when you start having these types of interactions, even basic stuff like action reaction from Newton gets broken. And so all this quite exotic physics appears.
Well, are we talking about like not viewing the Earth as a closed system because the sun externally is providing energy, or?
Yeah, it's a brilliant example of a non-equilibrium system. You have to have systems that are driven. And so, yeah, if you have energy coming into a system, it's no longer a system that we'd call equilibrium physics. So that's a really good example, actually, of that. So that's what I work with, is like classical systems are lots of particles that are driven out of equilibrium.
Okay.
Yeah, for now at least. I mean, I've got lots of interests, and I'm really into my music at the moment. So.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Well, if anything else comes up, you want to hop in and let us know and scream at me, yeah?
I really appreciate it, yeah. Yeah, thanks, yeah.
All right, I love you. Be careful.
Cool, take it.
Bye. Fucking Europeans think they're just entitled to come on and yap about birds. I'm just kidding. Okay, let me grab a Red Bull. 1 sec. If you want a good laugh at how deranged the anti-fans have become, check out the comments on this thread. Uh-oh. Wait, hold on 1 second. Do you think the rampant attack against Zohran for being Muslim are from the right are due to racism or xenophobia? I think it's xenophobia, and I think that's scarier than racism. But I'll explain in a second. Hold on. Ooh. Okay, wait. I want to watch this.
When fragments from a man's past resurface, faded memories like a haunting specter. Can you put the pieces together to see the full picture? Can you untangle the past without stirring the ghosts he's worked so hard to bury? No, she doesn't live here anymore. April 5th. Liam Cullen is enjoying a pleasant afternoon at home when he receives an unexpected message.
You didn't expand on the xenophobia question? Oh, I'll do it after this.
I was sitting on the couch watching TV when all of a sudden I got a text message. Huh? Who could that be? Yo, miss you, my brother. Back home for the weekend. What are you doing? The text was nice. It seemed like someone I knew pretty well. I checked who sent it. I didn't have the number saved.
Liam shuddered in horror, as if a hand from the cosmos lurched out and wrapped its icy fingers around his luxurious velvet throat.
I was sitting in my room watching TV when Liam called me, and I could tell right away something was wrong. Hey, what's up?
Hey, do you have this number saved?
I typed in the number Liam gave me, and nothing showed up in my contacts. Maybe you could try Googling it.
Good idea.
That new phone who dis, that shit doesn't work anymore, guys. Your contacts are always transferring.
Any luck?
Nothing. Shoot.
Maybe we could ask Billy.
Good idea. Billy! Help! Billy!
I was laying down in bed watching TV when Will called me in.
Hey, Billy, do you have this number saved? 657-432-740.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Dang it. Who the heck could this be?
What's the area code?
657. So it's definitely someone I know.
When Liam told me the area code was the same as his, I felt really bad, because it's clearly someone he knows.
I felt useless. You never want to let down a friend in need, so I had to try just one more idea. Why don't I call the number from my phone on video? That way, we can see who it is.
Liam and Will were playing a dangerous and sexy game, conjuring the ghosts of the past. But sometimes, when the stakes are this high, you gotta go all in.
All right, Liam gave me the number. I typed it in. I'm gonna call him now.
What? I was confused when I heard a Jamaican man on the phone. I thought, wait, I don't know any Jamaicans.
I could tell right away that this was one of Liam's close friends, because they're all bad guys. What?
Wait, why is Amogus up here for YouTube?
What'd you say? Hey, you're breaking up, actually. Can you repeat that?
Dang it. We almost had him.
Hey, man, sorry I'm driving. Want a link tonight?
I just got a text too. Send me that address. What are we gonna do? I have to respond now.
You only have one choice. You have to just ask who it is.
Hey, sorry man, I lost your number. Who is this? Wow, gonna big time you like that? It's Josh. Oh, it's Josh.
Oh, Josh.
When I realized it was my buddy Josh, I was relieved. I'll text him back. Oh, nice. I'll grab some beers. I'm in the same spot.
Confronting the past can be a daunting challenge. Fortunately, Liam was able to solve his mystery. Or so he thought.
Hey guys.
It was Josh Duran. A completely different Josh than I was expecting.
Josh doesn't suck, but he's not fun to hang out with.
I brought a ton of board games. Billy, can you go grab them from my Jeep truck?
It was a nightmare come to life. Josh Cole is our really good buddy, but Josh Duran, we just don't know him that well.
I got the guys into the situation and I had to get them out. Actually, I think we're pretty tired. I think we're just gonna go to bed.
Oh, no worries. Maybe we can do something tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I was really glad Liam decided to lie to Josh. I didn't want to hang out with him.
Sorry about that, guys.
Liam, I don't want you to worry about that.
This doesn't change anything between us.
Thanks for the help.
What began as a small ripple in Liam's memory quickly turned into a wave that pulled him under. He was no longer a messenger. He was a receiver, and the door was wide open. And some doors, once opened, simply can't be closed.
This is fucking
Just
retarded.
remember,
What?
when you lay down and put your head on the pillow tonight, this could happen to you.
Remember that time Josh came over?
Yeah, that was awkward.
Yeah, good thing he hasn't heard about our basement D&D league.
Help, I'm being attacked by goblins.
Liam, shoot those goblins with your fireball.
I can't. The goblins cast a spell on me.
What about this fireball?
Yeah, that actually might do it. Yeah, that actually might do something.
Ignite your gameplay.
Okay. Somebody in Kick Chat said, one issue I've heard anecdotes about from people who want to come to Sweden to study for PhD or who already have one and want to find a job here is that they become collateral damage as we impose strict immigration laws, etc., and it really concerns me. What does that mean? The Islamophobia stuff right now, I feel like before the Islamophobia stuff we did was kind of like in response to 9/11 and it was kind of just like racist. It feels a little bit weirder now that it feels a little bit more narratively driven. Like racism is just like kind of a thing and you just don't like people because they're weird or spooky or scary. But when things are a little bit more narratively constructed, like people are trying to bring in a race of people or a religious group of people to destroy us, I think that gets a lot scarier. I don't know if we've gotten there yet with the Muslim stuff, but a lot of the rhetoric about the Zoran guy seems to be ripped straight out of, it feels almost like 2005, which was, I think, more racism than anything else. But yeah, I don't know. It feels weird now. Not that I guess it ever felt good, but it feels. This, how do you pronounce this again? Fomui? I don't know how to pronounce the subreddit. I don't even know what the subreddit is about. YouTuber Ethan Klein's latest lawsuit against Twitch streamer Castron has brought on such an onslaught of hate comments and suicide wishes against her that she says, it honestly feels like people are trying to get me to kill myself. They're even taking bets via Robin Hood on her committing suicide. Cruelty aside, I don't understand how this guy had a career to begin with. He's not entertaining or fun to watch. Is that about me? What's up with Destiny? Is he involved in some shit too? The two most recent atrocities was when he smugly proclaimed himself Team Genocide and when he released revenge porn of his sex partners. Massive, right-wing, piece of shit incel freak. The internet equivalent of a cockroach and also a major sex pest / pedophile currently embroiled in lawsuits, multiple. But runs a big incel neckbeard community and wipes and sweeps his history across the internet, and then poses as a liberal and a Democrat in order to avoid scrutiny? How almost none of this is correct in any, like even in a macro sense. First of all, so right wing, okay, piece of shit, I guess. Incel, am I? Also, like incel / rapist, I guess, okay. Internet equivalent of a cockroach, I take that as a compliment. Major sex pest, I guess I guess we've got there. Pedophile? Okay. Currently embroiled in multiple lawsuits. Am I being sued by other people and I'm not aware of it? Okay. Runs a big incel neckbeard community. Is that us? Do we do a lot of incel stuff here? Wipes and sweeps his history across the internet. In what sense? There's so much history and stuff of me available on the internet. And then poses a liberal and Democrat for what, 10 years? In order to avoid scrutiny. But Democrats and liberals get scrutinized all the fucking time. Commissioned a known infamous pedo digital artist to make suggestive art of his own child. Commissioned. So when I had that JonTron convo afterwards, I fought with basically everybody on the internet because everybody was friends with JonTron. And some guy called Shadman, I think, drew an autistic art piece of me. And I said, I think my reply to him was something along the lines of like, oh, it's right here, actually. Hey, Shadbase, if drawing fan art of me is a tad uncomfortable, you could try drawing my son. He's only 6, so it should be easier for you. Because apparently he draws lolicon. This is obviously a joke. But apparently this means I commissioned a known, infamous pedo digital artist. Okay. By the way, for somebody who wipes and sweeps his internet history, it's kind of crazy that I could find that tweet from me from 8 years ago, but has expressed wishes to have sex with a child multiple times for the past decade. Okay. His exact words were something like, I have never wanted to bend someone over their little tykes so much. How? What? Little tykes tweet, the omniliberal. I don't know if Courtney's in our community or if she's an anti. I feel like everybody basically becomes an anti-fan at some point. I don't know where she's at right now. When did men start ogling you? 10. You were hot at 10? Any pics? Check DMs. Smiley face, smiley face. I don't know if people think she actually DM'd me pics of her at 10 years old here. Jeez, I never want to bend someone over the hood of their little tyke so bad. Okay. Expressed wishes to have sex with a child multiple times. Based. She tweets on X regularly. She's pretty chill. Oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to imply that she was tweeting crazy shit. I truly don't know. I don't keep up with anybody. Yeah. Runs his community as a sex cult full of creepy degenerates like himself. How can we be a sex cult and an incel neckbeard community at the same time? I feel like these things kind of don't work together, no? Is that, what is it? What is it? And secretly records all sexual encounters. True. His current ongoing lawsuit, well, now it's just one, I thought it was multiple, happened because he sent the secretly and illegally recorded video of him fucking one of his community members. This isn't even accurate to the, I feel like I'm reading Doe's court papers now, to another 19-year-old girl in his community. I don't think that person was in my community, in an attempt to impress her, hoping she would fuck him too. Yes, because we all know that internet celebs definitely need to do a lot of impressing. Doubled and tripled down on leaking sex tapes, brain so fried that he calls it my internet drama legal arc or such, and his fans all justify it and call for more illegal leaked sex tapes and nudes of other people that he all drew. Remember when we all do the end of stream chat where it's like, all right, guys, whose internet nudes and stuff do we want to leak right now? Okay. Rose to prominence, defending his right to say the N-word and other slurs. True. Got banned off Twitch because he kept calling for BLM protesters to be murdered. Also true. And screeching slurs nonstop. You'd think there'd be like compilation videos of me saying slur after slur after slur for this, but has called Arab people so many racial Islamophobic slurs that I cannot post them here. Have I ever? What? Okay. Wanted to be a political content creator and news streamer for young people, but never learned anything beyond the basics and kept repeating mainstream media propaganda. Turned into a violently raging and screaming debate freak. Tried to attack progressive politicians and news people like Sam Cedar, Michael Brooks, Noam Chomsky, Norm Finkelstein, etc.
Bruh.
Wait, is Chomsky Jewish? Are all 4 of these people Jewish?
I just think it's funny that...
That doesn't really work there, does it? Yeah, close enough. And got shut down and humiliated instantly. Couldn't handle the humiliation. came out in support of Israel and repeatedly calls for bloodthirst and genocide on a daily basis, and has gone on official propaganda trips, multiple, to Israel on Israelite government's official invitation to be an influencer for them. His community members include the guy who is famous for defending snipers killing children and calling little newborns terrorists. Who's that? Who are they even referring to? Oh, Loner Box, maybe? Recently went back to Israel to hold a lecture for IDF troops to help them hide their identities more efficiently after committing war crimes to save themselves from trials when they escaped to other countries. What the fuck? Notorious for attacking, harassing, doxing, sending death threats and rape threats to progressives / leftists, and cyberstalking and smearing the popular progressive socialist streamer Hassan Piker in particular. Has stated his life's goal to be to get Hassan to commit suicide, has stalked, doxed, swatted, attacked Hassan's home, sent his followers to physically attack Hassan and his family members, or anyone who is a guest on Hassan's stream, numerous times over the past 6 to 7 years. Apparently, Jesus Christ. Okay, I don't feel like we know this. What the fuck? 452 upvotes. The funny thing is, there's more horrible shit you could say about the guy than what's in that post. He's just an endless well of depravity. Very thorough rundown. Nicely done. One small missed detail he has, on numerous occasions, argued there is nothing wrong with ephebophilia and it should be legal. What? We're putting in work out here, guys. Holy shit, this just made the light bulb go on for me in regards to all the homophobia and transphobic comments in the recent PlayStation Destiny announcement stream. What? Fucking hell. I used to watch the early H3 vids in 2014, have a bit of a laugh at the skits like Vape Nation, or enjoy when he made fun of gross dudes who did kissing pranks. Thought it was kind of weird and a bit unhinged. The tics and cough were amusing. I never would have thought this is where he would go. I stopped watching the channel about after half a year or so, and just heard blitz of him being a bit scummy, but wow. Destiny is a tool for his capitalist masters. That's why they're using him for now. He 100% got banned for this post. It was the same day as the ban. Hold on, what is this post? Based? I need that Frogan clip. Will this ever load? Didn't he also fuck Nick Fuentes as well? Or was that misinfo? True. Holy shit, sheesh. Absolute scum. Jesus. Hold on. It's literally just a copy paste of the farms there, no? No, this is a different unhinged thing. Usually the people in Kiwi farms, it depends on how unhinged they're being. It really depends on how unhinged Blab is being, because he's like over half of the active accounts in my thread right now. But he goes back and forth between calling me a pedophile or not. But sometimes people will show up and they're like, don't call him a pedophile, because if you start making shit up, they're not going to take us seriously on the rest of the stuff, guys. We got to be factual. Destiny is more powerful when you make shit up about it. So they go back and forth on what they want to call me or not. Which I can respect, you know, player to player. Jesus Christ. Sorry, hold on. It's a good tweet. There's like so much other crazy shit in here. This pissed off Destiny so much, he ran a 2-month-long, insane hate campaign against the website Twitch itself in collaboration with other alt-right losers mentioned in this thread, doxing addresses of Twitch staff and threatening them, especially female staffers, to either unban himself and ban Hassan or else. He also sent a fan to physically attack and harass the Twitch CEO. There's a video too, and then attacked all progressive live streamers across Twitch, mainly Arabs or non-Zionist Jews, and then made them face nationwide harassment and a 30-day ban for no reason. After relentless attacks and threats against Twitch's site-wide advertisers, Twitch folded to his demands. Destiny also got another major sex pest / incel known as Sneeko unbanned on Twitch in the process. How can you be a sex pest and an incel at the same time? It's just like throwing, it's like when Jordan Peterson is like the postmodern neo-Marxist communist, when they just start throwing in like a whole bunch of random shit over and over and over again. Damn, this Destiny guy's really powerful. True! Okay. Jesus. Somebody said, what's this? To be honest, I don't really think any of this is a big deal. It's just funny that people who want to execute white people for saying in a friendly way will froth at the mouth screaming, you cracker, and then pretend their position is the moral one? 50 question marks. Oh, I think this person got mad because I put N-word in quotation marks. I'm sorry, but this was a legendary tweet, and I stand by it forever and ever. That dude is unhinged. He has like 50 comments in the last 24 hours. Yeah, usually people like that are either from Kiwi Farms or from some socialist community or snark or sub. What they'll do is they'll create an account and they will just post those same huge comments about me in every single subreddit over and over and over again. Sometimes in the same thread, if you look them up, they'll be in the same thread, like posting like 100 comments, like 1,000 comment thread. It's insane. I feel like I've seen this account before too, maybe. I think this is a signal to one of the H3/molestiny/KF dorks to use their suck puppet account to come pretend to be a snarker. Clicked on the username and checked history. It's a very active H3 LSF Destiny poster. Another one of the molestiny harassment channels. I got my first personal chat message from a footfungus/molestiny fan ever, threatening to add me to Ethan's discovery list, or discovery process, LOL. You just witnessed an average Destiny fan and his skills in action. He is squatting on the subname Destiny, which is why the subreddit of the completely unrelated video game Destiny is r. I love how I'm squatting on the name when I made my name before this game came out, but okay. Against this vicious internet harassment by the likes of Ethan Klein, Asmongold, and Molestiny? Jesus, how much does this guy post about me? Is this Caseytron? Destiny is a personal friend with inner circle, rich, elite, democratic influencers/YouTube spammers like Brian Tyler Cohen. Holy shit. Two days. All these posts are in like one day. One day ago. Jesus. These people, this person is like, these are mentally unwell people. My God. Camera's view, light source, camera reflection. Camera's view, no longer can see light source, camera reflection. Camera's view, polarized sheet. Now sees alternate paths that are no longer destructively interfered. Camera reflection. Okay, but when he pulled the sheet away, you could still see both, no? Hassan rotted this dude's mind so fucking hard. Yeah, I don't know. People... Sometimes people just need to take a break. Calm down.
Function with them. And I'm like,
Jesus, what? No, don't care about that. Representative Andy Ogles. Representative Andy Ogles. Ballotpedia. 90% of the posts in your Snark subreddit are from Gisticle's editor. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of crossover between Gisticle's editor, and there's at least one frequent poster in my thread on KF that is also a frequent poster in Gisticle's inner circle. But it is what it is. Who is this guy? Andy Ogles is a member of the U.S. House representing Tennessee's 5th District. Uh-oh. Tennessee. Zoran Little Muhammad Mamdani. Is this his nickname, or did this guy just call him that? Is an anti-Semitic socialist communist who will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported, which is why I'm calling him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings. That's a little bit fucking unhinged, but okay. Specifically, he rapped, "Free the Holy Land 5/My Guys." Oh my God. Unbelievable. Hopefully they denaturalize this guy. Get him out of here.
Moderation in some ways will be a little bit less strict or on banning people or taking down content that some might find offensive. It's a very sensitive subject, and it's very politicized conversation at the moment. And it's difficult to know where the right approach is. I mean, I have this. We all have those debates. What is Twitch's position with all of this?
Yeah.
Don't you get curious about how these people look or what their life is like? I couldn't imagine a person in any form of talent. For a lot of them, it's like I've interacted with them. We've seen them on stream before. That Pascal LaRue is one of them. A lot of them, I think, are people who are disabled in some way. So they like get disability checks. I mean, look at Casey John. She's almost kind of like that, right? Her dad lives on disability. They live at home. And because of that, they can just sit online all day and they consume a huge amount of online content. And their whole life is basically doing that, like talking about the stuff they watch and going on like online crusades and stuff.
We haven't really changed much, or I can almost go to say much at all. Now, one reason is we didn't sort of correct in the past in terms of what our policies were, because you really saw this movement in society in terms of what was allowed and what not. Twitch cares a lot about how you say things. That in fact, certain things are very clear inappropriate. You know, spewing hate and harassment at individual groups or individuals is not allowed. We maintain fairly consistent in how you say things. Expressing your views, as long as it's not expressing hate and harassment, is you expressing your views. Right? Now, one of the things that's allowed us to do this is we aren't a platform where people spread virally. One of the biggest challenges with some of the moderation principles deals with somebody says something and it virally spreads through other platforms where somebody shares it and somebody shares it and someone shares it, and now what they're saying is being broadened. With Twitch, the people there, the people that are there listening. And so we still have very clear our kind of community guidelines because we do care deeply about people not spewing hate, harassment, and other things, and attacking protected classes or other groups or individuals. But we haven't had to really change much as other winds have changed for other social media platforms.
Why am I even watching this? Okay. Oh, the pirate software stuff is hot right now? I don't think it is hot right now. I was just curious about the older stuff. But I feel like I must have gone over that video before, right? What's this telling soldiers committing war crimes to just not record themselves? Me and Hassan fans are doing. When I was in when I was at Tel Aviv, I did a fan meetup, and I had like a crowd of people that I was chatting with, and I think one of the questions was like, somebody asked like, how can Israel present itself better to the world, or something, because Israelis suck at communicating their shit. And I think one of the things I was saying is like, you guys need to stop fucking recording yourselves wearing dresses and shit. It's fucking retarded. Because there was a lot of the recent stuff that had blown up on the news was like videos of IDF soldiers wearing dresses that they're finding in like rooms in like blown up homes and shit. It's just fucking retarded. And now I guess people have extrapolated this to me saying you should genocide all these people. I have no doubt. Just don't record you genociding them. I'm not talking to IDF soldiers. I'm just talking to a bunch of random fans. Well, not random fans, I guess fans in Israel. Well, so they all are all IDF soldiers. Okay, wait. Find me the very first "Stop Killing Games" response from Thor. Go. Is it this one? Why does plaintiff keep flip-flopping on whether you are a public figure literally paragraphs apart? Oh, I don't know. We might read that one today. No, I'll read that one today.
Hi, my name is Jason Thor.
After this, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we start to get a flurry of responses from the judge ruling on some of these motions. And then I'll know whether I'm going to go take a break in Africa or whether or not we're big chilling.
Also known as Pirate Software Online. I've been in the gaming industry for about 20 years. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment, then Amazon Game Studios, and now I own my own studio, Pirate Software, by the same name, which is an indie studio, and I've been here for about 8 years now. I also run a massive community. We've got 180,000 people in Discord, and most of what I do is try to teach other people how to make games, teach them that they can make games, show them the tools to do so, and try to do everything without any paywalls or bullshit in the way. It's incredible.
Do you regret that comment about recording in dresses now that people are taking it out of context easily due to no one remembering that news cycle idea of dresses? No, what the fuck? No. Do I regret comments I've made? How much... Well, actually, I guess I was going to say I filmed hundreds of hours of content in Israel, but I don't know how much I got released. But no, do I regret when people take a clip? No, it's fucking retarded. I don't even think I'm saying anything in that video. It's like a 23-second video. I don't even think I'm saying, like, when you guys are murdering people or torturing people, make sure to hide. I'm pretty sure I literally just say the dress thing, don't I? Let me go check. Base.
Issues. I think Israel has unique issues. Here's the one piece of advice I'll give you. Okay, if you're joining the IDF, okay, leave your fucking cell phone at home and stop taking stupid fucking videos, okay? Because everybody's fucking you with them, okay? And if you see a soldier, okay, go into a fucking drawer. And listen, if you want to fucking wear a dress and you think it's funny, just don't fucking take a fucking video picture of it, okay? Jesus.
True.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, if like you hear this and you're like, he thinks he's pro genocide, but just don't regret, it's fucking retarded. I don't give a fuck. You think what you think about it. Don't care.
Incredibly important to me that we keep making games and that the next generation has the tools to do so their medium doesn't die out. And it never will. And that's the whole intention of all of this. So with that in mind, that community brought me this and tried to get me to sign it. And I don't want to. Number one, I can't because I don't live in Europe. But number two, I wouldn't sign it even if I could. And I'm going to kind of go through this and try to explain the reasoning as to why that would be the case.
Okay.
Without all of the internet hate machine that's grown up around it. So let's go into how this works and why this is an issue to me. First things first, what is an initiative? So an initiative is actually not law. It is something that you put together so you can put it up in front of representatives and they can start the conversation. The reason why I have a problem with Stop Killing Games is specifically it starts the wrong conversation. If we're trying to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single player experience, and then taking away support in the future, this ain't it. And the reason why is specifically on this initiative, under its own description, it says, this initiative calls to require publishers that sell or license video games to consumers in the European Union or related features and assets sold for video games they operate to leave said video games in a functional playable state. Specifically, the initiative seeks to prevent the remote disabling of video games by the publishers before providing reasonable means to continue functioning of said video games without the involvement from the side of the publisher. This isn't always possible.
This is 10 months old, by the way, so I know this is an old video, but I'm just catching up on this.
In all video games, and it doesn't call out the specific practice that this is supposedly trying to defeat. It is incredibly vague and will damage all live service games. How would you keep League of Legends in a
Okay. Sorry, hold on.
Is supposedly trying to defeat. It is incredibly vague and will damage all live service games.
So, of course, it's vague. He said it himself. This isn't legislation. This is an initiative to start a conversation. So it's going to be relatively vague here. We're not actually writing out a law yet, of course, right?
How would you keep League of Legends in a functional playable state? You'd have to re-architect the entire game. The game is what is called client-server. So in client-server models, there's a server and there's a client, and all of the math, all of the game, everything happens on the server. The client just displays it. And the reason we want to do it that way is so that you can't teleport around and do a billion damage. You don't.
Okay, so I'm not a game developer, and I don't know if he's being a level specific. So this is what I was kind of talking about before. I don't want to overstep. I don't think anything he just said there is like correct, really, though. So, like, for instance, when he says it's a client-server game, just because you have a game that has a server doesn't necessarily mean the server is doing all of the calculations. I don't even know if client-server game refers to a particular type of architecture or structure of a thing. Like, you can have what he's referring to specifically with League of Legends is when you're playing a multiplayer game with other people, the server itself is actually handling a lot of the calculations to make sure that on the client, some of the information isn't available to be read through in the RAM in order to cheat, like, for instance, seeing people in the fog of war. So, for instance, in a lot of games, so like for StarCraft, and I imagine for probably most games, all of the information, if you're wondering, how can you do wall hacks in CSGO? How can you do wall hacks in a video game? Well, the reason is that your client has all of the information about where everybody is. However, it just obfuscates from you. You don't see them because they're hidden behind walls, so they don't render the characters. But if you have a hack of some sort, you can dive through the RAM, or you can dive through whatever bullshit in the game itself, and then you can find, oh, there they are, and then you can use a hack to show it to you. For League specifically, League does a lot of these things server side, so it's not even possible to hack it on the client. But I don't know why he brings this up. Like, there are plenty of games that have clients and servers that don't do the math necessarily this way. And there are also, just because it's done that way doesn't mean that you couldn't make it so that a person could host their own server and still have the exact same setup. So I don't know why he brings this up at all. I don't know why. Like, if I had server files and I could host a server on my computer, I could have 4 friends join it. We could play a 5v5 bot game on, like, I could just be running the server. So I don't know why he would bring this up, but okay.
You don't trust the client. You trust the server. The client just displays what it's told, right? So if we wanted to re-architect this, we'd have to take all of that server logic, push it back out into the client, and somehow make that playable in a...
Like, that's just not true.
Multiplayer-only video game. That doesn't...
Like, the clients themselves, I'm making assumptions here, but I'm certainly correct. The clients themselves can already do all of the calculations. The only stuff that's being obfuscated are other players' characters, right? You can see this yourself. If you lose connection, I'm trying to think there is no true single player League. I'm confident that if you queue a minion, it can calculate like the damage and do crits and go to the shop and all of that. You don't need the server to do those calculations for you. Pretty sure it's just displaying information about where other characters are, other player characters are on the screen and stuff related to them. But again, even if that was the case that you couldn't, which it's not, but even if that was the case you couldn't, you can just make the server files available to individuals and they could just host themselves. So I don't know why he's saying this you wouldn't have to push all of the math and redo everything. That's just dumb, yeah.
Like this, we have to take all of that server logic, push it back out into the client, and somehow make that playable in a multiplayer-only video game. That doesn't make sense to me. So this isn't going to work for all games. Why is it calling out all games? And it's really easy to say, like, oh, that'll get worked out down the line. But we're dealing with...
If you have 2 clients, who decides who's right? I think this is where the concept of like netcode comes in and how you reconcile these things. But in League of Legends, the decider is the server. The server itself is what does calculations, and the server itself will obfuscate from the clients themselves when it comes to displaying like player models and stuff. But
government here. If we're going to be putting up these types of ideas specifically in front of government, we need to be calling out the right issues, especially if you don't have precedent set. Because now you're going to be setting precedent on something that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, or you could have in some games that do matchmaking. I don't think this is common anymore, though. But like in old games, wasn't this true for like Xbox, like COD, Modern Warfare 2 and stuff? You would have, there's a name for this, like self-hosting or something, where when you join a game, like you host the game yourself, and then other people join and shit. What is it called? Is it just called peer-to-peer, maybe, where the client itself becomes the host per game, just it picks one, so.
We need to be calling out the right issues, especially if you don't have precedent set. Because now you're going to be setting precedent on something that doesn't make any sense, with people that may not understand the nuance of our industry, all in the name of saving games. I can't agree with that. So let's go into why this is happening, right? So why did this start in the first place?
This is completely false. You would have to redo everything on the back end to move between peer-to-peer, server authoritative, distributed, etc. at Destiny. Explain to me why you couldn't just have somebody host League of Legends server executable on their computer and then connect to that with their own League client and other people to their own League client. What do you mean? Destiny, servers are more complicated than just a single binary. There's a whole web of services that make up a game server, and often those services are coupled. I think people base their expectations on games that let you self-host servers because they are designed for that. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think it would be arbitrarily easy to bundle these and to make these accessible to player. In 2025, I seriously doubt that in order to host stuff, you have senior engineers that are wading through in difficult code, trying to weave together some server architecture to host I guarantee you all of this shit is set up in such a way that probably some retard can come in and push a button for a host server and it generally works, is going to be my guess in this day and age.
What is the specific cases they called out that are egregious? And they have one. It's The Crew. So action on The Crew. The video game The Crew, published by Ubisoft, was recently destroyed for all players and had a player base of at least 12 million people. Due to the game's size and France's strong consumer protection laws, this represents one of the best opportunities to hold a publisher accountable for this action.
The only thing I can think of is that if the company releases a binary, someone could reverse engineer it. Okay, but you can already reverse engineer anything if you want. I mean, I guess maybe having a binary might make it a little easier, but who cares? NSA has a free decompiler, so you don't have to spend a lot of money of a program. This is really hard to actually parse everything out, but it is possible. A decompiler is not going to give you like readable source code. It's not like you can push decompile and now, oh, it's in C. I understand everything. Like you can decompile shit, but for a modern program, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a jumble. You'd have a better chance probably trying to sort through an LLM's code than getting anything like usable or meaningful from. It would be my guess.
If we're successful in charges being pressed against Ubisoft, this can have a ripple effect on the video games industry to prevent publishers from destroying more games. First off, I don't like the idea in this that it has a player base of 12 million people. That is not how long-running games work. There is a large number of people that buy the game, and that player base slowly dwindles off until nobody is playing anymore. If there's any cost associated with keeping the game online, which this was an online video game, then eventually it costs more to keep it online than it does to keep running it, right? So the cost outweighs the amount of income for it. There are bad business practices that can occur in there. There are companies that will sell a online-only game as a single-player experience and kind of just put it into the TOS and hide it. But not all companies do that. When they do, we should be calling out that specific company, not all companies. So let's take a look at this and find out more about The Crew.
The problem is not to bundle them, but that the server depends on a lot of third-party services that you can't just bundle into a single binary. Instead, you'd have to manually set up some AWS stuff, for example. Like, I'm just going to go with my gut on this. I'm sorry. And that most people that work in programming are fucking retarded. I don't believe you. I think it would be arbitrarily easy to create some pre-existing image or some pre-packaged thing that a retard could literally double-click and open, and it would automatically configure itself. And maybe if you want to host, maybe it would come with a list of things where it's like, make sure that you have a server that can handle these types of connections, like, that can have like this minimum bandwidth or whatever. I know this would be possible. Without knowing anything about this, I know it would be possible, okay? I know it would be possible. Fuck you.
Crew itself. If we pull up their Wikipedia, we can see that the Crew was actually created in 2014, which, much to the hatred of all of us oldies on the internet, was 10 years ago.
Wow.
Oh. So this was an online-only racing video game developed by Ubisoft Ivory Tower and Ubisoft Reflections and published by Ubi.
Can you take a big step back and explain what the mission of the Stop Killing Games was? I was too lazy to read it. Actually, no, it wasn't. Dan was. But my guess is basically, from the little bit that we did read, is sometimes there are single-player games that require online authentication to play. So when the online servers go down, you can't play them anymore. And then also there are multiplayer games, or you buy it basically for the multiplayer. And then when the online servers go down, you can't enjoy the multiplayer anymore. And there's no like LAN functionality or anything. And I think Stop Killing Games was just trying to make it so that, well, if you release a single-player game, at the very least, it can't have an online authentication required, because that's bullshit, because when the servers go down, you can't play your single player game anymore. And then maybe some way to allow people to host multiplayer games still. I don't know if that was a part of their mission, but...
Ubisoft. So all Ubisoft, right? With that in mind, it said it was a scaled-down recreation of the contiguous United States and included both role-playing and large-scale multiplayer elements. So it had a massive multiplayer component to it. It is an online-only service-based game, and they shut it down 10 years later. On March 31st, 2024, Ubisoft shut down the game's servers, rendering the game unplayable, which is normal for live service games. The only thing that I could see in here that could be...
Decompilers, IDA, or Ghidra would decompile the code down to assembly, and it would still be jumbled. You would be able to see that there were calls being made, but you would have to infer a lot of it. to try to say that you would have to infer a lot from getting assembly from a modern program, I think is the equivalent to me giving you a piece of DNA under an electron microscope and then me asking you to tell me what the human would look like based on what you see under the microscope. I could be wrong, but I don't believe that you could decompile a modern program that's going to be billions and trillions or whatever the fuck of zeros and ones in assembly language and be like, oh, I see how they were using the functions here. Oh, I see how they had this. I don't think it would be meaningful. I don't believe it would be meaningful. That's my understanding, okay? No, the program reads the binary and then it prints out C code. You obviously have to do some work to understand the parts of it, but it's not gonna, I mean, not even that like nothing would be commented, like all of your functions, nothing is gonna be named in any coherent manner. It's gonna be like, it's gonna be, it's gonna be a jarbled clusterfuck of anything. It might as well be assembly at that point, no? Like, it's not like any of the stuff is gonna be readable. I guess even if it does put it out in some kind of language, it's not gonna be decipherable.
Problem is if they post it as not an online-only experience. But everything that I found online shows that the game was always marketed as online-only. If you're going to be buying an online-only game, that means it can only run when it's online. And if the servers need to shut down in the future, far in the future, it makes sense to me for the access to that game to be cut if it's online-only. If it's a single-player experience that has online-only functionality specifically just to shut down the game in the future, and the online-only doesn't actually add any gameplay functionality, I'd agree with you. That's a shitty business practice. But that's really...
They have decompiled and recreated entire games. Also, React OS and Wine are entire recreations of Windows API without looking at the source code, which is illegal. There's a difference between recreating the source code of a thing versus recreating the functionality of a thing. For when you're talking about people that have decompiled and like reverse engineered stuff, I think this is on the scale of like, first of all, these are huge projects involving tons of people. And I think sometimes you might be able to tweak a couple things to get some different functionality out of the end product itself, but you're not like you're not having like a full like, oh, I basically have the source code for this thing now that I've decompiled it and I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like I remember for Final Fantasy Tactics 1.3, you're like tweaking individual things and you think that like, I think this impacts like this limit here. So if we change this here, we could do that. But you're not like going through like, oh, let's like add all this new stuff and oh, this is so easy to understand. And like these are the project I think is a much more massive undertaking than how do you think games are cracked? They're not cracked by reverse engineering the source code of the game.
really rare. And in the specific cases where it does happen, we should call out that, not just all games and not all live service games. Further, there's more context to this too. The Crew itself came out in 2014, but it actually had a sequel that came out in 2018. And then it had another sequel that came out in 2023. And if we go to the Crew's SteamDB, which again is not going to be all of the player base for this, it's only going to show the ones who were playing it through Steam. It was on multiple platforms. We look at the max here. It did.
For Mario 64, we literally have the Time Games source code understood basically, but it's an older game and it took manual work from people. Yeah, but you got to understand. This is why I keep saying for modern software projects, what is it? What is the space on Mario 64 ROM size? This is 8 megabytes, and this took what 20 years? With how many thousands of people contributing? Like, this is a massive undertaking. It's just, this is a very, 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 very complicated thing to do, to figure this out.
Start out with a sizable amount of community, and then it degraded, and it had a major drop-off in 2018, which is the same year that it launched a sequel. This is normal. When a sequel comes out, a lot of the player base, if the sequel doesn't suck, will move over to it, and then the servers effectively die. You can't run a live service game on this few players. You can't, most of the time, especially not if there's anything else that goes into it. And if we go into that anything else, and we can see that there was license problems. So December 14, 2023, Ubisoft delisted the Crew and its expansions from digital platforms, suspended sales of microtransactions, and announced that the game servers would...
They're doing it with the Legend of Zelda games, but yeah, it takes years of work, but they do end up with a source code that compiles to a one-to-one Yes, but this is so much work on projects that are multiple orders of magnitude less in size, like 0.00001% of the size of current modern projects.
would shut 2023, Ubisoft delisted the crew and its expansions from digital platforms, suspended sales of microtransactions, and announced that the game's servers would shut down on March 31st. So they gave them 3 months. Usually I would say, hey, 6 months is probably a better deal, but if they're going to do 3 months, they're going to do 3 months. The only thing that I'd be interested.
So some people are bringing up bundled software, bundled libraries. Fuck you. Like, is this a problem? Maybe, but this is the thing that the law would seek to change, right? If you're going to buy a license to bundle something that allows you to make a server work, well, then the license would extend to making project files available to people offline, right? That's an arbitrarily, trivially easy licensing issue to solve, I think.
Interested outside of that is if there was a contractual obligation to do more than 3 months and they didn't follow it, if it was in the terms of service or not. Citing upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. What were those licensing constraints? Well, it turns out that all of the cars in the game were licensed from the car companies, and a 10-year...
It's not just about decompiling it. A lot of code gets copy-pasted to future games and allows people to backdoor into future games much easier. Hosting files to people... Server files are not raw source code. Nothing. I don't believe you. Even if you told me, even if somebody said they worked at Blizzard, you told me, I wouldn't believe you. That to host a server, you're doing a fresh compile and then running your new binary every time you're hosting a server. I don't believe you. I just wouldn't even believe that's the case. Even if Mr. Blizzard himself said that, I would not believe you. These are binaries that are created. Once they're created, that's the file that you use, and that's the program that you use, and then whatever else bullshit you have to load on top of it. It's not like, oh, let's look at the source code today and do a fresh compile and then do a fresh server host. No, there's 100% chance that you could give an executable to somebody, a simple server files or whatever the fuck it would go, and then some config file to host a server, okay? Fuck you. I don't believe you.
Your running game likely means that they had license to them for 10 years, and that means that it would likely reopen for negotiation. Now, I understand that's speculation, but I've seen this type of a deal many times.
At Destiny, the cost to do what you're asking is more like 10 times, not a little more. Bullshit! I don't believe you on that either. Bullshit. That it would be that much harder to just create a configurable server? If it's that much more difficult, then your project is a fucking nightmare anyway, and you need to have better practices. We'll talk about it in our next sprint, okay?
Times in the industry while I've been working in it. So it's not unlikely. If you're going to have to renegotiate on a game that has so few players and is not turning a profit anymore, you're probably just going to forego the renegotiation. And if those servers are aging, you're not going to want to recreate that infrastructure. And there are some people and that means that it would likely reopen for negotiation. Now understand that's
fuck. Now you've made me miss his fucking video. It's about architecture. I'm in stream disagreements. Make it hostable on a virtual machine then. Couldn't you specify specify a virtual machine? What architecture is so fun? Type words in chat that I'm too retarded to understand. Tell me, what architecture is so ancient in networking that it's, what is it, like IPv3 or something I've never heard? Like, is it, what is it? What is so ancient that you could never, what? I don't believe you guys.
31st. So they gave them 3 months. Usually I would say, hey, 6 months is probably a better deal. But if they're going to do 3 months, they're going to do 3 months. The only thing that I'd be interested outside of that is if there was a contractual obligation to do more than 3 months and they didn't follow it, if it was in the terms of service or not.
Not hardware architecture, software architecture, the requirements that have stacked up over time. What, are you saying that like a server to host one of these games has to be like a rack of like 59 GTXs or whatever? Wait. Matchmaking and anti-cheat and host migration are part of so many modern multiplayer games. Bundle it all together and give somebody a deployable version. I'm sorry. I won't, because you guys are lazy. And that's why AI is coming for all of your jobs. Okay? That's why AI is coming for all of your jobs, because you're lazy motherfuckers, all right?
Citing upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. What were those licensing constraints? Well, it turns out that all of the cars in the game were licensed from the car companies, and a 10-year running game likely means that they had license to them for 10 years.
There is proprietary server tech that is required for lots of games. But I don't believe you. I don't believe. So when Cloudflare or when fucking AWS goes down for the day and half the internet dies, where are all of the team leads and managers like, wait a second, I thought we were using proprietary server tech. Well, yeah, but we did a lot, and it just happens to also be deployable on the largest server infrastructure in the entire fucking world, and it does work there. Like, well, come on! If you can deploy on an AWS, then any ordinary person should be able to deploy the same thing. Or on AWS if they wanted to. They could even buy a fucking rent time on a server and do it there. Stop.
3 months and they didn't follow it, if it was in the terms of service or not. Citing upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. What were those licensing constraints? Well, it turns out that all of the cars in the game were licensed from the car companies. And a 10-year running game likely means that they had license to them for 10 years. And that means that it would likely reopen for negotiation. Now, I understand that's speculation, but I've seen this type of a deal many times in the industry. Well,
I didn't even listen to him. You guys are riling me up. Okay.
Be a better deal, but if they're going to do 3 months, they're going to do 3 months. The only thing that I'd be interested outside of that is if there was a contractual obligation to do more than 3 months and they didn't follow it, if it was in the terms of service or not. Citing upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. What were those licensing constraints? Well, it turns out that all of the cars in the game were licensed from the car companies, and a 10-year running game likely means that they had license to them for 10 years, and that means that it would likely reopen for negotiation. Now, I understand that's speculation, but I've seen this type of a deal many times in the industry.
Licensing is easy. You just have a different license. I don't like it when people will put up the dumbest roadblocks. Like, hey, you know how we said we were going to drive to Tampa? I actually want to drive to Jacksonville. Well, the issue is we only have enough gas in the tank to go to Tampa. Oh, yeah, so we can't do it. I see. Why don't we just get some more fucking gas?
Industry and while I've been working in it. So it's not unlikely. If you're going to have to renegotiate on a game that has so few players and is not turning a profit anymore, you're probably just going to forgo the renegotiation. And if those servers are aging, you're not going to want to recreate that infrastructure. And there are some people that will say, well, just make it all single player. Well, I've explained that doesn't make any sense in the first place. If you're making it all single player, you have to carve off all of that, and it's developer time and money. When you already have sequels out and the game has basically no players left anyway, it makes more sense to just move on. I don't find that to be a problem from the developer perspective, and I understand that people find that to be a problem from the player perspective. These are two different ideologies, and that's okay to have two different ideologies. I just won't agree with it because I understand the burden that puts if we raise that problem in the way that we are right now. If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them. And we're going to miss out on adventures.
Well, isn't that the whole point of allowing players to run them?
Like Final Fantasy XIV. And even though I don't play anymore, League of Legends or any other live service game, any of them. You're talking everything, like even phone games, as funny as that is. A lot of people don't realize that phone games require online-only activity. What about things like Pokemon Go? What about stuff like Monster Hunter Now? What about any of these? We'd never get any of them. And that's why I think this needs to not be vague. It needs...
There's nothing special. There's nothing special about a server online. It's just another program. Well, I mean, there can be some incredibly unique proprietary server art, but it's not for the fucking video game shit. There's nothing ultra special here that can't be emulated. There's not some quantum flux computation station that is the only machine in the universe that can handle the calculations necessary to see if your little brother is cheating in Call of Duty or not.
To be specific about the business practice it's trying to defeat, which is specifically companies that are doing this under the guise of it being a single-player game, but adding online-only functionality that is not necessary and doesn't add any gameplay elements. That's the problem. So now we're going to go to Ross, otherwise known as Accursed Farms, the creator of this initiative, and one of the ones that's pushing it the most online. I'm going to let him say exactly why he thinks that this will go through very easily and why it is important, and then I'm going to tell you why I don't agree with it.
Becomes law in the EU? Yeah, it might be. Now, it's not a guarantee, but I think if we get the signatures, this passes. Why do I say that? Well, it's a few factors. Politicians like easy wins, and this doesn't require them to do much at all. And unless it involves gambling or protecting children...
Software as a service dependencies seem like one of the biggest issues. If my game server depends on a service by another company running on their servers, how does that continue past the game's lifetime with no one paying that other company? Well, you know what? I bet somehow in the code you can put an or thing, and then type in null for no value if that other service is down. What other internet service are you relying on that would make your server completely and totally fucking broken if you weren't able to query some other service created by a whole other different company? Give me an example of what we would be talking about here. Could be a database. What are all these proprietary database deployment methods that are completely like proprietary, that are totally inaccessible to anybody else? Nobody has cracked how to do a database besides some other company I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. I don't think these are real problems. You sound like a lazy dev who knows words, who are trying to say, well, you can't do a thing because you're lazy. I don't believe you. I don't believe it. Maybe flight simulator that uses real-time weather data. That's a good example, okay? So if it pings something like, my guess is going to be there's a lot of public servers like Google or whatever, but this would be a thing. And I think that the company, and I think everybody would agree that they would be fine with this, right? Is that if you had a flight simulator game and say that it pinged Google, whatever bullshit, you would have a thing where if it tries to ping that server, or if it tries to query that server for information, if it can't get it, then it would just say, oh, this is unavailable. And then at the very least, well, fine, then you can't get mad at the developer. Now it's up to them to maintain that. And maybe Google makes a license or whatever where you can pay to have access to it from your machine or your IP so that you can query shit from your fucking game. There are a billion different ways there are a billion different ways you can solve all of these problems. I know that there are, okay? It's not 1874 and our computers are a bunch of women that we've locked in basements to do math problems for us, okay? There's a billion different ways that you can, I'm sure, that you could figure this out.
Politicians generally don't care about video games, so this isn't of big consequence to them or most of their constituencies.
I'm going to stop it there for a moment. The assertion that politicians just like easy wins, so this legislation will go through, but the politicians don't care about a multi-billion-dollar global industry and that it doesn't matter to their constituencies is incredibly absurd to me. I don't think this is the right direction at all for a movement like this. I think it's incredibly damaging and it makes our entire industry look bad, both on the player side and the developer side. If we're going to...
What is even the thing Pirate Software is complaining about? Okay, here's this issue, okay? Quick reminder, okay, that if you're joining chat and you think I'm like a software developer, I don't know anything about programming, okay? So I get incredibly passionate about things I have no understanding of. Only when it comes to this, because I like triggering all my engineers in chat. Here's the issue that's happening. And then I'll tell you where Pirate Software is on this, because this is the perfect 115 IQ, okay, high mid-wit trap to fall into. Here's the issue, okay? This isn't just true in software development, okay? This is true in all things in life. There are some things in life where the perception is that it's incredibly difficult, and it is incredibly difficult, okay? So being an Olympic athlete, that seems like it's really difficult. And it is really difficult, okay? Being addicted to heroin, that seems like it'd be pretty easy to do. And it is really easy to get addicted to heroin, okay? Some things in life seem like they'd be maybe fairly simple, but they're actually incredibly difficult to do. What would an example of this be? Somebody give me an example of something that seems like it would be incredibly, or no, I'm sorry. It seems to be very easy, but it's actually incredibly difficult to do. I don't want to do losing weight. Heroin. Wait, that doesn't have an E at the end. Maybe, you know what? I'll say doing high G stuff, I think. I don't know if it's the same or if all the suits do the work for you, but back when I used to watch videos of people doing high G maneuvers, they have to do a whole bunch of weird shit. They have to like kick their legs, and they gotta like take weird breaths, and they gotta contract their muscles to stay like conscious or whatever. There's like a lot of work that goes into it. It seems like, oh, I guess, I don't know, you just like don't pass out like a retard, but there's actually a lot of work. And then there's stuff that seems really, really, really difficult, but it's actually incredibly easy. I would say literally all forms of, I think there's a lot of art stuff that fits here. So like for music, if you're a good musician, sometimes people can hear a song and play it, and it's like, oh my God, that's crazy difficult. But if you're trained, it's like, well, no, that's actually just very, very, very easy. Although I'm qualifying that a little bit with the training. Okay. Here's the issue with software people, okay? Now, rightfully, okay, sometimes you might have a program and a manager or a CEO, some guy might come up to you and say like, hey, can we add this thing? Should be super easy to do, right? And it might seem like a really easy thing to do, but it's actually an unbelievably difficult thing to change. It would actually be crazy. Let's say that we had like Twitter that existed, but there were like no DMs. There were no private messages, right? So it's like, oh, can we just add DMs so we can private message people, right? Well, they can tweet. We should be able to DM each other, right? But like the stuff that you would need to send private messages between accounts, well, it seems like, well, if you can tweet, you can just send a private message, right? But that's like a whole different process. It's a whole different thing. So that might seem like an easy thing to do, but it's probably, there's a lot of work that goes into that. The problem is that like not engineers, okay? Loser programmers are so used to hearing stuff like this. Sometimes they start to pretend that every single thing is like this. These people in chat, by the way, these are all the people that are going to be crying in 5 years that AI stole their jobs. You ask them for anything, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's actually way harder than you think. Actually, that there's a dependency there, and there's actually nothing because it's depending on something else." And it's like you can't like write an API so anything could like act. Actually, no, because I don't do that. It's actually way harder. You don't understand. It's because you have to like do a whole bunch. It's actually really hard to do all of this stuff because it's like never been. It's like, and they'll give you an excuse for fucking everything. Okay, these are fucking losers who they will make an excuse and they'll say everything's hard. It's not true. Okay, some stuff is hard, but not everything is hard. It's 2025. Okay, there's a fuck ton of cool shit you can do today with software and programs and platforms and Docker and Wine and Linux and all cool computer stuff. Okay, but sometimes for developers, whenever you ask them to do anything, all right, their brains shut down and they're like, actually, you're basically asking me to reverse engineer how they built the pyramids. I don't know where Stonehenge came from. And that's what my modern 2025 application that I built in React is, okay? It's indecipherable. There's no way to change any part of it whatsoever. And to do so would require 20,000 man hours of a A+ dev team pulled from both AWS and Google. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. So every time somebody says something like, hey, couldn't you like keep a game online afterwards? They come up with all these like, well, actually it's hard because the server, it can't be hosted on Windows. And it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure even Windows probably has like fucking VMs for other environments or whatever, right? It's like, when I say VMs, okay, stuff used to be hard on computers, right? Like if I wanted to do some shit, I would have to start Googling all sorts of instructions on, but now it's probably retardedly easy. My guess is I could probably get like Linux fully running on some fucking whatever bullshit distro by watching a fucking YouTube video and like double clicking the right things, all right? It used to be really hard. You used to have to do a lot of shit, but everything today is built for retards and by retards, all right? So this idea that it would be impossible to deploy a server locally, or that would be impossible because actually this was made before something, and it's like, okay, is there like a config file where you can change true to false and it would fix that whole problem? Well, or like, actually this is it relies on like another service or whatever. Can it be bundled with it? No. Can you just turn it off? Maybe. Could you write an API to let somebody else plug into it? Well, that would actually require so much work. Is there already an API written for it, but it's just like hard-coded to use the other thing? Could you just like not do that? Well, and that's why AI is going to eat all of their jobs, okay? Fuck all of you guys. We're back to this. I don't care. All right.
$1 global industry, and that it doesn't matter to the constituencies is incredibly absurd to me. I don't think this is the right direction at all for a movement like this. I think it's incredibly damaging and it makes our entire industry look bad, both on the player side and the developer side. If we're going to be putting forward anything that may eventually turn to legislation, it should be passing because it's the right thing to do for consumers and developers, and that there's some kind of a middle ground, not just because it's an easy win and politicians don't care. This sets us off on a completely wrong foot.
EU law is already unclear on a lot of this practice anyway.
And that's dangerous. If we're going to be setting precedent, which could change the way that law works all the way down the road, then we need to be sending the right message, which this is sending a vague message that doesn't cover the actual problem. So this is not a win to me. This is a huge risk.
And we would be...
Actual question. What is your guess in terms of cost that it would take to replace a game engine like UE5 to a custom-made engine? How many companies would do this? The cost for that, to replace Unreal Engine 5 with a fully custom engine, my guess is $50 billion. But when people make custom engines, a custom engine is like 98% the same underlying shit with like 2% changed. And people will say, this is my custom implementation of this, my custom thing. When people are making custom engines, they're not rebuilding every single part. I don't know if you would call it the stack or whatever. They're not redoing how like pixels are rendered on the ground. They're not like redesigning from the ground up, like everything. Here's my guess. I don't know fuck all. My guess is UE5 is probably like fucking 70% of the code of like UE4, which is probably like 70% of the code of like UE3. My guess is if you would have fucking dragged some old motherfucker out of their grave and have him look at UE5, some guy would be like, holy shit, I remember writing that fucking call when I was designing Quake 1, okay? Maybe now sometimes there are like huge redesigns that involve a significant change, but like most like custom stuff is not rebuilt completely from the ground up. And even when people say built from the ground up, it doesn't mean they're redesigning every single subcomponent of a thing. Okay. I don't even know what I'm screaming at. I don't even care that much.
Would be making it easy for them to settle it. It falls in line with other consumer practices. You know how when you buy something, you're generally allowed to keep it?
In the case of live service games, in the terms of service for those, you are not buying the game. You're buying a license to the game. And that's the part that's really different here. If we don't like the idea of live service games as a whole, I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those terms. But if we're into this weird idea...
But when everybody starts making live service games, also this like you buy a license and not the game is who cares? Then just change the license then. Like that's all people are asking, no?
That we need to get rid of all live service games or damage that practice in any way to keep in line with consumer policies, it is in line with consumer policies. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be there in the first place. So this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. You're not buying the game, you're buying a license to the game. In the niche cases where a studio is trying to sell a game as if you are buying it or purchasing it or using that language specifically and they give you a live service game instead, I agree that should change. That language should change. You are not purchasing the game, you're not buying the game, you are paying to have a license to a live service experience. I get that. Is that what this is doing though? The initiative is not trying to call that out specifically. It's trying to say that all games need to stay in a functional, playable state, which is not calling out the language that is being used to manipulate the player. Call that out specifically. Not this vague bullshit.
And finally, this is a diversion from really serious topics that politicians would prefer not to deal with.
That's really gross to me as well. The idea that this is just a diversion from serious topics and they can get an easy win in and we can just push it through and there won't be a lot of...
Oh, so sorry. The reason why I drew that whole thing in paint is because I think that Pirate Software is the master of trying to pretend that every single ask that you ever make of a software developer is actually infinitely complex. When in reality, no, you're just lazy.
Push back on it
or retarded.
They're not going to have to think about it too hard. That's crazy dangerous, dude. If you're going to be setting precedent, if you're going to be putting forward something that you want to start a conversation to eventually become legislation, and these are the reasons for it, not only can I not agree with the initiative, but I can't agree with you. And I think that the tactics that you're using here are really disgusting. So yes.
But regardless if it'd be possible, I should still have the right to completely shut down my game. Should you? I don't know. That feels weird. Or I feel like at that point, it should be made upfront more clear to the customer, like what exactly you're buying. And it shouldn't even be called buying. That word should be banned. It should be called renting. You're paying $60 to rent this game until the person decides to revoke your access to it, all right?
I won't agree with that, and I won't agree with Ross. There's no way around that. I think this is gross. To sum it all up, no, I will not be supporting the initiative Stop Killing Games. You're not going to change my mind on it because I find this language to be incredibly vague and damaging to the rest of our industry. I think that it would be bad for both developers and players down the line in the way that it is currently written. And I think that starting a conversation that doesn't get to the core of the issue is both wasted time and leads to potentially bad outcomes. So if we want to talk about this, let's talk about the actual bad business practices. In the case that a studio is making a live service game and they sell it to you as a product, they say that you are purchasing the game or you are buying the game, when in reality you're actually purchasing or buying a license to that game, I think that we should be fighting about that. That needs to go away. A player should be well informed at the point of purchase that they are purchasing a license, not buying a game. And the reason that we have those licenses in the case of client-server interactions like we had before, we're talking about client-server games, is so that they can ban you when you cheat at them. They revoke your license. That's why they revoke your license, to protect the gameplay of every other player that you're impacting when you cheat at these games. That needs...
Okay, you might have a gap in your understanding of game engines. If you take your game that uses UE5 and try to replace that, it would take anywhere between 3 to 4 years with a sizable team. I work on game engines for a living. Well, I don't know what you're talking about when you say that. You think that you guys could build from nothing a custom game engine that would have the same feature set or capabilities as Unreal Engine 5? You think you could do that with a team of devs in 3 to 4 years? It takes people more time to build games on existing engines than What do you realize you're getting baited? Okay, true. Just kidding.
To exist, but it needs to be better informed to the player at time of purchase. So I agree on that. This doesn't bring that up though. It just attacks all video games that have online-only components and says that they need to keep being able to be played indefinitely. That doesn't make any sense to me. Aside from that, a lot of people really like live service games as they exist now. So trying to kill off all live service games, as some people have said online, doesn't make any sense either. Live service games are a great way to get away from the real world. They are about social interaction between players. Some people get married in them. Some people met their spouse in them and then got married in them. It's a really cool thing for a point in time in which you're having that social experience. And to destroy that just...
He's saying swap it with another engine? Yeah, sure, but like, listen, I'm not even to the limits of my knowledge. I'm way out beyond any of my knowledge on those. My guess is going to be swapping from one engine to another. It probably super depends on what you're using that engine for. For instance, when it comes to graphics, there might be things that UE5 does that other engines do comparably, and swapping from one to another might literally be as easy as just like moving textures to a different environment and just clicking run and it basically works. And there might be some things that the UE5 engine does that are very specific to the UE5 engine that are either unduplicatable in other engines, or require a totally different implementation, or require a totally different workaround in order to get it to work, such that like there might be two games that might appear kind of similar, and one would take a fuck ton of work to transfer engines because it's relying on stuff that UE5 does really well, exceptionally well. And keep in mind too, you're not just creating a program that works when you're talking about games, you're creating a program that works, where working is qualified as like can run live, right? So it might be that UE5 does something a lot more efficiently as well, and doing it on another engine might still do the same thing, but now it's like way less efficient, and now you've got to like cut from other areas. I don't know, just transferring from one engine to another. I don't know if you could ever extrapolate that. But I don't know. I don't have an idea. But I feel like it's probably not the case. Like it would probably depend on. It would probably depend on why you're using that particular engine, what features you're using from it, and then how unique that feature set is to that particular environment versus another. Would be my guess. Hey, Steve, I just want to say thank you. I'm graduating this fall in bioengineering and never would have gotten here without you opening the ADHD door for me. I went from failing to straight A's. Completely changed my life. Cool, Alavon. Good for you, buddy.
Because you don't like them is very weird. I don't think that makes a lot of sense to me. I also don't think it makes sense the way that Ross is posing this is why it's going to pass. I think that's incredibly inflammatory and could lead to a lot of damage to both what he's trying to stop and to games as a whole. To say that the government just doesn't care and this is an easy win and we're going to get it through is disingenuous. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar global industry. To think that the government isn't going to be meticulous.
Oh yeah, but none of this for doing server files, none of this has to do with changing the engine though. Yeah, so I don't know why that's not part of this conversation. Right?
Damage to both what he's trying to stop and to games as a whole. To say that the government just doesn't care and this is an easy win and we're going to get it through is disingenuous. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar global industry. To think that the government isn't going to be meticulously looking through this and looking for flaws and holes is absurd. So I don't think that's honest at all, and I find it disgusting. So for everyone who's mad about that, fine. Be angry about it. I'm not going to change my stance on that because I can't agree with this, both as a dev and a player. I see the danger involved, I see the vagueness in the language, and it doesn't make sense to me. If we want to fight for better conditions for players, then fight the actual problem. Don't make new.
Okay, you're right. You know what? Let's do this. Chat GPT. Let's fucking go. I want you to write a 10-question quiz about video game programming that an employed junior software dev should be able to answer. Make this quiz a multiple choice and reveal the answers, and reveal the answer after each question, but keep the answer hidden until I scroll down. Something like that? All right, let's fucking go. Let's do it. Okay. Oh wait, one question at a time, right? Make this quiz multiple choice and only do one question at a time, and hide the answer from me until I am ready to move on to the next thing. All right, we're about to BTFO all of the video game programmers in chat. Here we go. All right. In most 2D games, what is the main purpose of a game loop? To handle user logins and authentication, to load assets like textures and sounds once at startup, to repeatedly update game logic and render the scene, to compile the game code into machine language. Well, the game loop is obviously here to continually refresh the scene using the game's logic. That's the answer is C, of course. Obviously. Which of the following data structures is most suitable for implementing an efficient collision detection broad phase in a 2D game with many objects? Oh, well, for a 2D game where you've got a lot of objects that you're colliding with, well, obviously we would never use linked lists or binary heaps. Now, quad trees are good for 3D things, so a hash map, I believe that's what Doom and Wolfenstein use, so god damn it. Quad trees are commonly used to spatially partition 2D space, reduce the number of, okay, that's okay, we can miss one. In Unity, which of these methods is called once per frame on a mono behavior script? I mean, we're updating, of course. Obviously. In C++, what is the primary reason for using a virtual destructor in a base class of a game object hierarchy? The virtual destructor, now if you're a beginner, obviously, you would always have this in your base class of any game object hierarchy. In order to allow derived class structure to run properly when deleting via a base pointer, to inline the destructor function, and to prevent overriding member functions. To speed up, okay, hold on. Okay, it's memory allocation? No, hold on. I'm trying to remember this. This is such elementary stuff, you know? To allow derived class structure to run properly when deleting, nah, not that. To inline in a base. Member. Oh, fuck, it's either C or D. I'm trying to remember, guys. To inline. Seems kind of like that's like inline, you know? To prevent overriding of member function. So you don't run to. I'm going to go ahead and go with C here, I think. C feels correct. Fuck this fucking quiz. Fuck this shit. Okay, 8 out of 10 is still okay, all right? We can do this. Okay, what is the main advantage of using delta time in game loops? Oh, well, it simplifies multi-threading in games. It ensures the game runs at 60 FPS. It allows movement and animations to be frame rate independent, and it reduces the number of draw calls per frame. Oh, definitely C. Back in the day, before they started using delta time, the frame rate actually dictated a lot of the game logic updates, so, you know. Okay, there we go. True. There you go, okay. In Unreal Engine's blueprint system, oh, I've done a lot of work in UE, you know. Which of these best describes its purpose? For the blueprint system, I'm trying to remember. Now, I use my own custom engine built from the ground up in 3 to 4 years with a small team. In Unreal Engine's blueprint system, which of these best describes its purpose? A low-level shader compiler, a C++ code obfuscator, no, a node-based, a visual scripting language, no, and a file packaging tool. In Unreal Engine's blueprint. Like file packages, like that's like a blueprint, kind of, right? But okay, 7 out of 10. We can do this. Wait, how many have I missed? Okay, hold on. Which of the following best describes object pooling in game programming? Encrypting objects before sending them over the network, storing game object in a binary file, reusing objects from a pre-allocated pool instead of repeatedly creating and destroying them, and combining multiple objects into one to optimize draw calls. Oh, well, I mean, that's when you pool the pools, you know. Sometimes I build entire objects out of, I pool a square and then I just build all of my assets out of one thing. That's C, obviously. Got it. What is a shader most commonly used for in 3D games? Oh, shaders are used for lighting and surface effects on graphics hardwares. Obviously. Okay. Okay. Question 9. Which of the following is not a common component of an entity component system architecture? Entity component system and subroutine. This is a trick question. I'm going to say D. Okay, there we go. And what is VSync primarily used for in game rendering? Increasing polygon count, synchronizing the game's frame rate with the monitor's refresh rate, and his, oh, well, B, obviously. That's a pass. Tally. 7 out of 10? That's a pass. I'm going. Who do I work for now? Activision? Try again without multiple choice. Well, I've heard that like if you just write a bunch of shit, it will always like, you always like pass. Okay, I'll do a 5 question thing. Hold on. I want you to write a 5 question, or 4, we'll do 4 question quiz about video game, blah, blah. Make this quiz an essay answer quiz and do only one question at a time and hide the answer from me until I'm ready to move on to the next thing. Okay. Explain the role of the game loop in real-time game programming. Why is it essential, and what are its main responsibilities? Well, I feel like this is rehashing what we just learned in our prior test, right? Hold on. The role of the game loop is to continuously update the client with the information necessary to allow the user to continue to operate the game. It is essential because it allows the game to continue to function in a predictable manner as dictated by the programmer, and its main responsibilities are keeping track of things like updating the player's movement, the position, and things like, okay, hold on, and things like the position of objects on the screen. Easy. Give me, that's an A+. Nice explanation. You captured the core idea. The game loop continues to update the game state and renders frames so the player can interact with it. But there you... Here's essay. Do they give me points per question? Does that mean I got it? Does it give me the... Okay, describe the concept of object pooling in game development. Why might a junior game programmer choose to implement object pooling, and what benefits does it provide? Easy. We just learned this. The concept of object pooling involves adding textures, involves loading textures into the VRAM in order to, and continuously utilizing them for a variety of objects instead of continuously wiping them from the VRAM and calling them again from the from storage. Let's do that, okay. Why might a junior game programmer choose to implement? Implementing object pooling allows you to quickly recreate objects on the screen. Hold on. Allows you to quickly recreate objects on the screen without having to continuously reload the entire assets over and over again. That's what continuous means. Into the VRAM. Does object pooling happen in the VRAM? That's my guess. Give me an okay on that. You're on the right track. Fuck! But object pooling more specifically refers to using actual game object instances. Oh, come on. Really? To avoid frequent recreation or destruction, which can be costly. Does this mean I didn't get that one right? Does that count or not? In the context of a 3D game engine, explain what a shader is and how shaders contribute to rendering realistic graphics. I don't actually know that much about shaders. When objects are drawn on the screen, simple polygons can be used to represent anything that the player might see. Shaders allow the GPU to change the appearance of rendered objects in more sophisticated ways that allow you to have dynamic things, that allow you to engage, activate, that allow you to show more sophisticated effects, I don't know, that allow you to dynamically, I don't even know if it's dynamic, I don't know, shaders? It's probably not, that allow you to alter the appearance of rendered textures on screen in ways that might correspond to a change in lighting or lighting? Lighting, for instance. Okay, for instance. That makes it sound like I know more things I can say. Just give me a yes. Great explanation. You clearly described how shaders let the GPU manipulate the appearance of objects, especially for lighting and visual effects, which is essential for realism and 3D graphics. Whew. Okay, one more. Discuss why delta time is important in game development and how it affects movement and animation in games. Easy. Easy. Before delta time, games would have to tie the game loop would have to tie functions, operations that would occur on screen to the actual frame rate rendered by the GPU. Delta time allows you to run different clocks for theoretical clocks, so it doesn't seem like I'm as committed. Different clocks for different sets of actions so that they can run independently from one another and not be reliant on each other to properly function. For instance, you wouldn't want a laggy game to cause one of your game's functions to run incorrectly, since it would if it were relying on the frame rate to be continuous for its calculations. That's an A+ answer. Give me a... Easy. That's it. You've captured the key idea that delta time decouples game logic from frame rate, ensuring the consistent... There it is. That's it. I'm basically a programmer, okay? That's it. Now do multiple choice senior game dev level. I barely got 7 out of 10 on the amateur one, okay? There's no way I could do the senior one, okay? Wait. What would you grade that essay quiz I just took on a scale from 1 to 100? $79 out of 100. We take those. How are you giving me 85? I wrote so much bullshit on this. Whatever, that's a pass, baby. We take those. Okay. This is the thing I really need to study. Hold on. I want you to write a 10-question quiz about being an effective Scrum Master that an employed senior team lead should be able to answer. What is the primary responsibility of a Scrum Master and a Scrum team? Writing user stories and defining acceptance criteria, managing the project timeline and assigning tasks, facilitating Scrum events and removing impediments, and approving the product release. Obviously, I'm just here to make your job easier, guys, and I'm making sure you're all scrumming correctly. That's a C, baby. During a sprint retrospective, what is the main goal? To assign tasks for the next sprint, to discuss what went well, what didn't, and how to improve, to review and accept completed work, and to update the project budget. What do you say to talk about what worked and what didn't work for our next sprint, guys, so that we know exactly what we can do next time? What is a time box in the context of Scrum? A tool for tracking employee working hours, a fixed duration allocated for an event or activity, the deadline for delivering the final product, and the total hours spent on development during a sprint. The time box is how much time you should be spending working on Or is it D? The total hours spent on development during a sprint. Time box. Fixed. We're going to go with D. That's our total time box. Fuck! I shouldn't have second guessed myself. Who is responsible for prioritizing the product backlog? The Scrum Master for prioritizing the product backlog, the development team, the product owner, the project manager. The project manager, right? Maybe? The product owner. What? Who cares? Okay, hold on. We can still get an 8 out of 10. Okay, don't fret. What should the Scrum Master do if a team member is consistently missing daily Scrum meetings? What? Discuss the issue privately to understand and resolve the cause. Assign them extra tasks to catch up. Report them to HR. Now, it should be D, but we'll be a nice Scrum Master and we'll go talk to them privately. Which is long describes a sprint goal, a detailed list of all tasks to be completed in the sprint, a high-level objective the team aims to achieve during the sprint, the total story points assigned to the sprint, and the release date for the product. Our sprint goal is just our macro-level objective, you know. How should a Scrum Master handle external interruptions during a sprint? Allow the team to address them immediately, regardless of sprint focus. Shield the team by managing and negotiating the interruptions outside the team. Let the product owner handle all interruptions without the Scrum Master's involvement, and ignore interruptions focused only on... We have to protect our team, and we need to get the external people to fuck off as the Scrum Master. Okay. What is the recommended duration for a daily Scrum meeting in a 2-week sprint? We should be able to do our stand-ups in 30 minutes. That sounds good. That's what I do for my teams. Fuck! 15 minutes. Oh, because we do 4-week sprints. My bad. My bad. I fucked up. What is the purpose of the definition of done in Scrum? To define the sprint duration, to list all team member roles, to ensure work meets agreed quality and completeness standards before being considered complete, and to prioritize backlog items. It's not. Done is not. Done is not, I just have 2 more things I need to tweak real quick. And done is not, it's basically done. We just need somebody to look at it. Done is what we say done is, okay? That's C. Which of the following is not a formal Scrum event? Sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, project kickoff, sprint planning, sprint review, daily Scrum, ooh, project kickoff. That's cringe. That's an 8 out of 10, baby. Fuck, 7 out of 10. I don't care. We're still going to go Scrum. I can't wait to Scrum with my team after this. Okay, we're done with this. Okay.
Hi, my name is...
Okay. Somebody, the guy made a response to him, and then he made another response to the response or something. And then we'll watch the Stop Killing Games guy's response that he put 3 days ago.
Jason Thorhall, also known as Pirate Suffer. And the other day I put out a video called Stop Killing Games saying why I would not support the initiative. Overall, it was actually quite positive. The analytics on it show that people really think it's a good idea.
Wow.
There's a huge amount of like ratio, and I received hundreds of comments from developers thanking me for putting it out because they can't speak publicly while they're at a business or a job elsewhere. A lot of the times...
Oh, no, wait. Okay, the other guy didn't put out a response to him. He's just doing this as a general response, I guess. Okay.
Major companies will fire you if you are speaking out of turn and cause a PR disaster for those companies. And since this is such a popular thing among players, most devs aren't going to say anything to you. So I am. So let's discuss the most common requirement of the initiative, which is games have to be left in a functional, playable state. Now, what happens if that game is a online-only live service game? Well, if you want that to stay in a functional, playable state, that means the devs have to release either server binaries or somehow carve off the game to be a single-player experience now. Some way to keep it functional and playable, right?
Like, this is what I hate. I don't understand why you guys fucking do this. This is a software dev thing. I don't know why. I don't know why you do it. I've had people do this to me before. The answer is, like, people will throw up roadblocks that don't even make sense, right? What about something like Pokemon Go? And the obvious answer is, these are not games that we would expect to be offline playable. We would exclude those. Easy. Next thing. Why are you even pretending like this is a problem? If there is a game that is heavily centered around exclusively like an online experience, then you just wouldn't, those games would be excluded from this license, obviously. Right?
Now, many of you are requesting, yes, I should get the server binaries so that I can go and make private servers for this. But that doesn't make a lot of sense in the real world. And the reason why is because it leaves developers open to abuse. So let's explore that a little bit. Let's say that you made your own video game, and you made a live service game. Maybe it's an MMO, maybe it's something else, right? And let's say that I want to monetize that game, but you don't allow monetization of the game by any other party. This makes sense because most creators don't allow for that. You can't just take someone else's art and profit off of it. Normal, right? So then I go, well, how am I going to force you to do this? Under this initiative, you would have to release the server binaries or keep the game in a functional playable state at end of life. So I hit you with a ton of bots. I hit you with a ton of exploits. I attack your community. I destroy your Reddit. I go after your business. I go everywhere that I possibly can to make this cost as much as it possibly can for you.
So people already do this. People don't need any end-of-life guarantee to get server binaries to do this as well. People don't, like, people could already host a competing game and do this. All of these incentives already exist in every single way, size, shape, and form. So, and people already do stuff like this, but okay.
And it's not hard to do this. We saw the exact same thing happen in TF2 recently. The massive amount of bots that were attacking the game. This is not infeasible. This is something that is very easily attainable today. And let's say that this goes on long enough that your game dies because you can't afford it anymore, and your studio has to shut down. At end of life, you now have to release those server binaries to keep the game in a functional playable state. At which point I take those, I create a private server, and I monetize it. And some people have said, well, simply don't allow monetization of the server. Well, who's going to enforce that? If you
The law? I mean, you could simply do that now. You could say that the license, if you keep them in a permanent state, you're not allowed to monetize future servers. And if people do it, then you can sue them? Isn't that what court is for?
Want a government initiative to enforce that, that means the government has to build a registry of all of those games and all of that intellectual property that shouldn't be monetized.
Don't you already have trademarks and copyrights associated with all of the games that are being created? Do those not already exist?
And then somehow enforce that with no one owning it because those studios have shut down. That's going to be a massive burden. On top of that, if you want to go the other route...
It's a massive burden to register a copyright?
The company has to go and control it. Well, what if the company's not around anymore? Is that just...
If the company's not around anymore, then who the fuck cares? What, like, imagine the problem we're thinking. What if somebody wanted to host a global Pong server now, and they hosted the Pong server, and now they want to charge people money to join it, and now the original company... Well, then who the fuck cares? Then let them charge money to host the fucking server. Who cares? Who's even being fucking harmed at this point?
Able to be monetized now? Again, this was obtained through abuse of the original creator. I don't think that's a good route. And this scenario gets even worse if you do allow monetization. Because now I can just kill off your company and then monetize the server and no one will ever come after me. Now it's even more of a problem. So allowing monetization of this work is strictly worse. And for those of you out there that say, oh, this can be done right now, I could just destroy your studio and take your stuff anyway.
Yes.
You could, but this allows a route for it to be legal to do so.
How does this become legal just because you can do this afterwards? What?
That's the problem. After putting this out publicly and talking to people about it, this specific scenario on both YouTube and Discord and Reddit and a bunch of other locations, I got a couple of takes back. We're going to start with the most extreme position and kind of go from there. So in the most extreme, people said live service games shouldn't exist at all, and the initiative will kill them off for good, and that's a good thing. Well, you don't get to define what players get to play or not play. You also shouldn't be able to get to define what developers build or don't build. You should not have creative control over the developers, and you should not have control over what is in my Steam library or on my phone. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Aside from that, the initiative does not purport to kill live service games. It would just make it incredibly difficult to build said games and add a lot of risk to it, which is why I'm bringing all of this up and why I don't support the initiative in the first place. A lot of people don't realize that this will slowly diminish live service games in the market because it's not an incentive for us to build them anymore, which means you get less multiplayer live experiences. That sucks. I like live service games. I enjoy playing things like Final Fantasy XIV. I enjoy going and playing in games in the past, at least, like League of Legends. These are games that are live service. They require a live service to run, and you shouldn't be able to take that away from people. And if that's your only position on this, not only are you disingenuous in what the initiative is purporting to try to achieve, but you're also aggressively attacking other players instead of trying to fix something. So the next one is that this is about games preservation, and that it needs to happen to preserve these types of games for future generations and for everyone to always have forever. But I would argue that this isn't actually preserving these games. Social games, such as, let's say, Apex Legends, require a number of players to be in the match at the same time so that you can have an experience that is only able to be obtained through lots of players interacting, right? It's a multiplayer game. You need a bunch of people. How many of you have felt negatively when an MMO dies? Or when a live service game dies? Oh, dead game. There's only 5 people online. Why would I play that? So why would you want to preserve a game in that state? That doesn't make any sense to me. You want to take down these live service games, put them up on a private server, and then play it with a couple of people. You're not bringing it back at its height. You're not taking a snapshot of what the game actually is. You're making it limp on in a way that doesn't make any sense.
But there are people that would do that. Like, there are people that would still want to play Halo 2 or Halo 3 or whatever the fuck and host it. Like, if they want to do it, then fucking let them. Why should that matter that much? Like...
That's not preservation. And for those that may stop there and go, but private servers can have a lot of players. Look at all the ones for World of Warcraft. Again, we talked about that. It opens up a route for abuse of the developers. So that is not a solution. And the last take that I got from this is, and it's the most reasonable to me, this is an initiative. It's not a law. Why are you upset? Just wait. I'm not going to wait. And the reason I'm not going to wait is because I see the start of this conversation not making sense. It's not including the actual developer side of the conversation. It's not showing the trials and problems that this could arise inside of the gaming industry for people who are actually making the games you play. I don't have any reason to be quiet about that. And many other developers aren't going to be able to speak on this. As I explained before, it's really easy to lose your job if you're working at a major studio and try to speak out of turn on something like this, especially with something people are so passionate about. It doesn't make any sense to stay quiet. And it also doesn't make any sense to wait until it's in a different form when I see that it has so many problems with the language as it is currently written. I should be able to be talking about this. In fact, I should be talking about this. I am a content creator specifically that is a game developer that has worked in this industry for 20 years. This is my wheelhouse. This is what I do. So for those who are calling for me to just be silent and sit in the corner, no. With all that being said, I do think there's a consumer protection thing that we can fix here. It's just not really what the initiative is about. I think that if you're going to buy a live service game, you shouldn't be told you're buying the game. You shouldn't be told that you're purchasing the game. You should be told explicitly that you are purchasing a license.
Just as an alternate narrative to this Power Software's trash take, the GTA 5 RP mod 5M that all the streamers play was created entirely by reverse engineering with 95% by one Russian that spawned its own entire ecosystem of private monetized servers, which was then bought out by Rockstar for lots of money. That singular story talks against almost every point this dumb fuck raises.
To that game. The reason why is because that license needs to be revoked anytime that you are cheating at the game and damaging the play experience of other players. While this is written in the TOS and the EULA, it's usually not clearly defined at point of sale. Or they throw a giant TOS in front of you and it doesn't really do anything because people skip past it. If at point of sale it says specifically, there's specific language stating that you are either leasing or purchasing a license or anything along those lines, that you're not actually buying the game directly, I think it would go a long way to informing consumers of what they're doing and protect them from some of these business practices that they didn't realize they were engaging in. That makes a lot more sense to me than force all developers to leave the game in a functional playable state. And that's about it. That's all I really wanted to talk about with this. I hope that's clarified some things for some of you and some of the dangers that this can cause as it is currently written. If you're still mad about this, not much I can do about it. Outside of that, I'm going to be gone for the next 4 days, so if you expect me to respond or anything like that and you think I'm ducking the issue or hiding in some way, I'm not.
Okay, Neo Destiny 2 says, that guy is lying. They didn't reverse engineer the game, they reverse engineered the web API hooks so they could create a server for the game's executable. I'm assuming that's what he meant, right? The GTA 5 RP mod I don't think had anything to do with reversing any part of, like, reverse engineering part of the game. It was just the whatever they used for the online hosting and the web engine shit, or not web engine, whatever allows people to connect to other people's games or whatever, right?
I'm just in Vegas because there's DEF CON going on, which is a hacking convention, and it's the first vacation I've had in 5 years.
Whoa!
To see my friends out there. So with that in mind, see ya.
DEF CON.